As the cliché goes, there's two sides to every story. After more than 12 hours of backlash for his fan altercation during the Pittsburgh Steelers-Detroit Lions showdown, DK Metcalf's retelling of the incident has begun to surface. Former NFL wide receiver Chad Johnson told co-host Shannon Sharpe on the latest episode of their podcast, Nightcap, that the Lions fan Metcalf engaged in an altercation with during Week 16 used racist language toward Metcalf. Johnson also said the fan called Metcalf's mother the C-word. Obviously, I'm not condoning putting your hands on a fan or punching a fan, but he did call him a racial slur. He called him the N-word, and he did call his mom a expletive, Johnson said. Now, I think with those words being exchanged and the fan saying that, I think that's where the action occurred. That's a bad combination, and it caused DK to react. Johnson didn't initially state where he received Metcalf's side of the story. But as the conversation on the subject continued during the podcast, Johnson stated it came from number 4. Metcalf wears number 4 for the Steelers. Video of Metcalf's incident with a fan began going viral when CBS Sports showed it during the second quarter of Sunday's Steelers-Lions contest. Within 3 hours, ESPN's Adam Schefter's post of the video on X received more than 3.5 million views. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero released a second angle of the incident Sunday night. On the second angle, it appeared Metcalf shoved the fan rather than punching him. Another angle of DK Metcalf's altercation with the fan. No punch, but still an interaction that could draw league discipline. Regardless of the type of physical action, nearly all pundits expect Metcalf to receive severe discipline from the NFL. CBS Sports rule expert Gene Steratore reported during the game the Steelers' wideout didn't receive an ejection because the officials didn't see the altercation. Lions fan says he called DK Metcalf by his government name. Metcalf's retelling of the incident has come to light a day after the Lions fan spoke to the media on the altercation. The Detroit Free Press tracked down the Lions fan in the stands during the game. Initially, the fan said his name was biggest Detroit Lions fan ever that got attacked by Decalen Zacharias Metcalf. Andrew Burkle and Christian Romo of the Detroit Free Press wrote the media outlet pressed the fan for information. They learned his name and that he was from Pinckney, Michigan. The fan continued to use Metcalf's full name in the conversation. "What my full name isn't is Decalen Zacharias Metcalf," the fan said. "He doesn't like his government name. I called him that, and then he grabbed me and ripped my shirt. I'm a little shocked. Like, everyone's talking to me. I'm a little rattled, but I just want the Lions to win, baby." The Detroit Free Press added that the fan also said, "My words don't matter," because it was on camera. Sharpe and Johnson discussed the story from the Lions fans' perspective on their podcast. Both former All-Pro players agreed that based on Metcalf's reaction, it's not likely the fan only called the receiver by his official name. Johnson emphasized that the truth would come out because of the microphones the NFL has around each stadium. The ex-receiver said those microphones would have picked up what the fan said or didn't say. Steelers DK Metcalf likely to face NFL discipline. Even if Metcalf's retelling of the incident is true, the Steelers receiver is probably going to face a severe fine and/or suspension from the league. He was fortunate to be able to finish Sunday's contest, which the Steelers won in dramatic fashion, 29-24. Johnson argued that based on the language the fan allegedly used, Metcalf's response was understandable. But Johnson agreed the receiver still shouldn't have reacted physically. "I'm sure he will have to deal with some type of discipline. You know how the NFL is," Johnson said. "No matter what's said, they want you to be able to control yourself in that situation. But I understand. There's not a lot of precedent for punishment with NFL players getting into altercations with fans during games. For that reason, Steelers fans should expect a strong punishment. But typically, NFL players face one-game bans for punching/fighting other players and/or officials. The Steelers square off against the Cleveland Browns and then the Baltimore Ravens to end the 2025 regular season. Pittsburgh needs one more win to secure the AFC North title and a home playoff game. The Steelers, though, can also clinch the AFC North with a Ravens loss to the Green Bay Packers in Week 17. Since that game occurs before the Steelers-Browns matchup, it's possible Pittsburgh already wraps up the division title before Metcalf begins serving a potential suspension. 1. Mr. Everywhere. No defensive back in the NFL this season has played more snaps than Jalen Ramsey. Teammate Patrick Queen, an inside linebacker, is the only defensive player in the league, regardless of position, to play more. And when it comes to Ramsey's deployment, he's coming from all over the place. Sunday's game was the latest example. While Ramsey's permanent move to safety is in its 8th week, against the Lions he was forced back to some of his old proverbial stomping grounds. The Steelers entered the game without a player who had been starting for them at outside cornerback. James Pierre was out because of a calf injury. Then, Brandon Echols left the game during the second quarter because of a groin injury. Echols, himself a positional nomad in the Steelers' secondary this season, had been manning the slot/nickel spot. When he went down, with the Steelers already thin at CB, undrafted rookie Darrell Porter Jr. was elevated from the practice squad to make his NFL debut Sunday. Coaches elected to move Ramsey to fill in for Echols. Veteran Chuck Clark subbed for Ramsey at safety. As is custom in his first season with the team, Ramsey played every one of the Steelers' defensive snaps in Detroit. According to Pro Football Focus, for 44 of the 74 snaps he played, Ramsey was lined up in the slot, and for 15 each he was at free and strong safety. It marked the 7th game this season that Ramsey was most often lining up in the slot. He also has 7 games during which he most often was at free safety, and 1 in which he primarily was an outside cornerback, a position at which he has 3 times been named AP NFL All-Pro. Ramsey also averages almost 9 snaps per game coming from an in-the-box safety, including 3 games in which that was his second most utilized spot for a game. 2. Above the line. Building on that, the Steelers have now clinched 22 consecutive non-losing seasons, setting a new NFL record. Consider the sustained success, not only since 2004 when this streak began, but since just after the AFL/NFL merger. In only 12 of the 54 seasons since 1972, the Steelers have had a losing record. Their 42 non-losing seasons, even if you extend the sample size back to 1970, are the most in the NFL. For context on the Steelers' 22 consecutive non-losing seasons, consider the plight of the Cardinals franchise. Born in 1920, the Chicago/St. Louis Phoenix, Arizona team has had only 36 non-losing, non-strike seasons in its 106-year history. They have had only 31 non-losing seasons over the past century. And they have had only 16 non-losing full seasons since 1972, when the Steelers' span of 42 non-losing seasons began. The Lions also have had only 16 non-losing seasons in that span since 1972. The Browns have had only 14, albeit they did not exist for 3 of those years. Again, the Steelers have 42. 3. Shut them down. That the Lions entered Sunday with the NFL's 5th best rushing offense only all the more underscores how impressive it was that the Steelers limited them to 15 yards on 12 carries. Jahmyr Gibbs entered the game with 1,100 rushing yards and ended it with a new NFL record for most touchdowns over the course of any player's first 3 seasons, 48. But Gibbs' touchdown Sunday came on a reception. He had 4 carries for 0 net yards during the Lions' first drive, but had just 3 carries the rest of the game. The Lions' other high-end running back, David Montgomery, had 4 carries for 13 yards, the final 3 of which netted minus for yards. Montgomery had a 17-yard run in the first quarter, making it even more remarkable that the Lions finished with 15 rushing yards. Aside from that run, the entire Detroit offense netted minus 2 yards on 11 carries. The Steelers were credited with 7 tackles for loss. As unearthed by Steelers Assistant Director of Communications Michael Birch, the Lions hadn't had as few as 15 net rushing yards in a game in 9 years. The Steelers had gone more than a decade since they held an opponent to 15 or fewer yards in a game. For opposite on the other side of it. Meanwhile, in regards to rushing offense, the Steelers likewise had an effort they hadn't had the likes of since President Barack Obama was still in office. Led by Jaylen Warren, 143 yards on 14 carries, the Steelers had 230 rushing yards, their most since a Le'Veon Bell-led attack racked up 240 yards during a snowstorm on December 11, 2016, at the Buffalo Bills. The performance left Warren on the verge of perhaps his first 1,000-yard rushing season. He is up to 828 yards on 185 carries, meaning he needs to average 86 yards each in games at the Cleveland Browns on Sunday and against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 18. Mike Evans' name has begun circulating discreetly but steadily amid speculation surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers and the team's offensive future. Without any official confirmation, this scenario arises from the team's need to evaluate alternatives capable of elevating their passing game and offering more consistency to the offensive unit. The Steelers are monitoring the market for players who can make an immediate impact, and the wide receiver position appears as one of the areas of focus. In this context, Mike Evans stands out as a significant name. Recognized for his physical strength, reach, and consistency throughout his career, the receiver is frequently mentioned in analyses of potential moves involving franchises seeking experience and a dominant presence in crucial moments. Internally, any possibility of advancement would depend on factors such as salary fit, age, medium and long-term planning, and the type of investment Pittsburgh would be willing to make. For league executives, a change in the scenario could represent an opportunity for a strategic restart, both for the player and the interested franchise. The arrival of an athlete of Mike Evans' caliber to the Steelers would mean more than just a technical reinforcement. It would be a clear sign of ambition, capable of altering the dynamics of the offense and relieving pressure on the rest of the offensive roster. Still, at the moment, there are no concrete indications of ongoing negotiations. While nothing materializes, the matter remains in the realm of speculation. However, in an NFL known for unexpected moves and bold decisions, the possibility of Mike Evans wearing black and gold continues to fuel debate among fans and analysts.